Greetings, Internet. Welcome to Aaron Plays. This is my continuation of the battle, or the campaign for Malaya, set in, at the present moment, December 1941. I'm playing the Allied forces. I'm playing a live opponent called Steve, who plays the Japanese. So we will only get to see what my forces are until Steve brings his forces onto the board. In the first episode, we did most of the first battle cycle. We're doing all the campaign stuff. Let me actually just bring up a sequence of play here. As we've gone through campaigns, so we've gone through all these steps all the way up to, we're going to the joint deactivation and activation phase of the first battle cycle of the first operation in the first month. The scenario has 3 months. So I'm not showing any battle cycles. I don't know the duration of the current battles or the current operation that he's doing. That's part of the surprise, isn't it? So here's the actual operation display. We are currently on day 4, as you can see here. The op end could be here or here or here. I'm not sure which one it will be until that gets flipped over. And yeah, we had the contact phase, which was 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4 days. Once we actually finish the first battle cycle, that'll move on to each battle cycle being 2 days. So we stopped just before the end of the first battle cycle. And what will actually happen once this phase marker reaches here, the day marker, it will then go back to lightning phase. We don't do any of these other steps here until the operation is actually over. So the reason why we stopped at the joint activation deactivation is at this point, as it says there, we can reactivate, or sorry, not reactivate, activate new units. He can actually spend up to 10 command points. I could spend up to 10 command points if I had up to 10 command points. I only have 3 command points, well, sorry, on this, shown on the display, remaining. And I actually activate 3 ground units because at the present moment, I'm not able to activate any of these guys, the ground forces in here and here or wherever, because they're on there. Currently, well, they should be on the deactivate, so I think that's where I made an error. Well, I know I've just activated that force now and that force. Let me just take that back. There you go. Yeah. I don't know one too much. So we've got an activate side here. So it's got cost of 1. That's got a cost of 1. And I spent my 3 points moving those to the active side. What that actually does is can we zoom in on these counters? We can a little bit. It puts a little marker on those. In the real board game, you've got a marker which is got up to a 4 on it, 4, 3, 2, and a 1. That shows how many battle cycle, it's a battle cycle marker, how long it can stay active for. So these are only 2 because I've got them doing a reaction. A reaction is a maximum of 14 days, which in ground forces terms is 2 BCM, battle cycle markers. Now, I had a discussion with my opponent, and he said he prefers, I suppose it's a house rule, that he doesn't, he counts upwards. You meant to put as written, but in the rules that you put BCM marker equal to the amount of size of the operation. So if it's a 14-day operation, you put a 2 on it. If it's a 21-day operation, you put a 3. If you do a 28-day operation, you put a 4. But he thinks that when these forces move into a hex of the opponent, by having that marker showing, it it tips off how large the operation is, which is a fair point. The rules don't really mention that. All they say is put on the marker that equals the size of the operation. So is your opponent meant to be tipped off the size of your operation by the size of the BCM? Is that showing how much supplies, resources, initiative that you've actually got? Not sure. I didn't feel strongly enough that, or opposed enough that it bothered me that much. Though the rules as written does say you put on a BCM marker equal to the size of the operation. Again, 28 days, 4 weeks, 21 days, a 3 marker, and a 14-day operation, a 2. So on my count, as you'll see, because I act a 2, I'm going to be counting downwards. On his, when we do get to see him, he's actually counting upwards. So if that's not confusing enough for you, well, I'll continue and see what happens. Okay, so we're still in the, I know he's activating forces. I don't know how many he's activating, but I've spent 3 activation, my last running 3. So here's me actual command point marker, and that will deteriorate as I spend the points. There you go, it's gone. And that ends that particular phase. Keep bringing this one up and down. Joint activation, deactivation. We then have the detection removal phase, where all the forces that we spent all that time rolling dice for over here, their detection is changed to undetected. There we go. Might take a few clicks on the old vassal dice because maybe other things were being clicked at the time. So I don't know what extra forces he's activated, but we shall see as we continue with this. All right. Operation Player Determination phase. Okay, so looking at this now, is day marker adjustment. Okay, I think we actually missed that by the looks of it going on here, but I did correct that. Let's just see if the day marker has now moved on to day 6, and the battle cycle should now be moved to the lighting adjustment phase. Boom. Okay. So at this point, Steve could, the Japanese, it was in night, it will automatically move to day AM, but he still hasn't used his once per operation where he could actually place it anywhere, which was at the beginning of the first battle cycle. He chose not to do that. So once per operation now, he could move this marker on 2 spaces. He decides to keep it just the 1, retaining the ability to do that at some future point in this operation. Next battle cycle, he'll move into the die roll area, or he could move it into the day PM. We move it to the die roll the dice, and determine where it is, what ends up. Okay, moving on. So we now do advantage determination. So in the first battle cycle, in this particular scenario, the Japanese have the advantage. Now we're in the second battle cycle, we roll for it. But as it's still a surprise attack, the whole operation is a surprise attack, he gets, as the Japanese, a +2 on the die roll. The winner of the die roll has the advantage for this battle cycle. If it's a tie, because it's a surprise attack, the Japanese will retain the advantage. So what did we roll? As I said there, initiative roll, Japan +2. He rolls a 1. So that's a total of 3. So I was getting excited at this point, and I roll a 0. So excitement was. Okay, so the Japanese retained the advantage. And then we moved on to advantage movement in the battle cycle. Move that down out the way. So, Japanese advantage. He's doing his ground forces first. Okay. Just highlight, he's now activating force 3, which I don't know what's in there. Okay, so the movement costs, this is jungle. It's normally 3 movement points, but because he's moving along this communication path, it's 2 movement points per hex. And ground forces have 6 movement points per movement phase. So that will cost him 2, 4, and they move into Bangkok for 6. Okay. Now that will consume one of his BCMs. So if it's a 2-week operation, which I'm still not sure of, though I think he's probably gone for a 3, if not a 4, that'll change his, in his case, he'll be marking them as 1. If it was my case, I'd be taking it down from 2 to 1. So then he's activating his naval. So he's got a naval force here and in here at the present moment. Still ground. Ah, yes. So as I say, this is after the event, and I'll remember now. I was very gracious and kind, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but you know, we're learning the game. In here, there's there's a ground force. So force 2. And I said, sure, he landed those in the first battle cycle. I said, do you want to move them? And he went, oh, yes. So, yeah, if we're playing this competitively, I would probably have kept, you know, but we're not. So he still activated those. And he then moved them. So there's still some forces in there in force 2. He's moved some of those out, again, not sure what they are, as force 7. So he created a new force and moved them into Kota Baru, that's the name of that town. And placed a marker on that hex, showing they've arrived from that direction. So if I'm forced to retreat, I can never go that way. I can only go into these two hexes. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. I should emphasize a bit more. Okay, then he went back onto his naval. So we do searches from now during the battle cycles. If you search, you can only do it once per force you have per phase, like in this actual advantage movement. You only do it once per advantage movement. Then in the disadvantage movement, I could do searches as well. So the initial search I did, well, I said FF, it's meant to be force 4. So I have in here, we look, oh, I moved that over. So I zoomed in, didn't I? Zoom out a bit again on those. Yeah. In my force 4, I have a long range LRA, long range aircraft. They're pretty good at searching. So I want to search for his task force 1. Okay. And I then clarify it's force 4. That's doing the search, not FF, what FF is. I think I was thinking 4 as in F-O-U-R, can't even spell now. Dear oh dear. Okay, so I rolled a 1. That is good enough on that search. I wonder if I can bring up the search charts on here. Where are the charts and tables? Under here? No, that's the units. Looks like game charts. Ah, there we go. Right, so we're using this. It's an allied search, okay? We know it's day because looking at the day, he set the tracker to day. Okay, and so I'm looking on this row here. Okay, so what I do is, and if I'm teaching people to suck eggs here, you all know this well. There might be some people who don't. So from here is where I was searching from to here, it's 2 hexes. So I'm looking at the 2 hexes. So I'm looking at this point on the chart over here. It doesn't allow me to do the pointer thing on that. So I'm looking at 2 hexes. So whatever the result I rolled, when I rolled a 1, so I'm in the green area here. If I roll a 6, 7, 8, or 9, I'm off the chart. So was there any modifiers? If there'd been an extra task force in there, there'd been a -1. The more ships, I suppose. Easy to search, but there was no modifiers to this roll. So that 2 hex range arc green information, which as shows here, is deck detected. So I'm able to see that, know what's in it. And the target player reports number and types of all naval units at task force. He has to tell me if they're battleships, cruisers, destroyers, aircraft carriers, etc., and the amount that are in there. So that's how this chart works. Leave that down there to be brought on as and when we require it. Okay, so yeah, got detection. I know what's there. Okay, moving on. He flips over his counter and he tells me it's detected, and he tells me there's 2 battleships and 1 heavy cruiser on CA. Okay, so Force 4 also has in it, if you look again, if I show here, some normal aircraft, fighter aircraft. So I decided to look for Task Force 2, which is in this hex. Okay. Again, looking at the chart, but this is now, that was for the long range aircraft, air unit. I was looking with a fighter, or it had been a twin engined or a 4-engine. That's what the B stands for, 4-engine aircraft, twin engine aircraft and fighter, but it's a fighter units looking. So their maximum range is 5, whereas obviously long range gives it away in the name, LRA. We can actually only go 5 hexes. Search, 2 hexes, so I'm looking for a 4 or less to detect him. No, couldn't find a barn door, so nothing. These charts are actually different for each player. So if we look at the Japanese search, okay, these numbers are slightly different. So if we just look here, for example, the search for air in the hex, the Japanese can only see with a 5 or less, whereas the Allied can see with a 6 or less. I don't know if they've just got better binoculars, you know, more awake. I don't know what that is representing, but the Japanese have got better long-range aircraft. I think they've generally got better on this chart as well. So you're splitting between day and night. So you can see at night time, all these guys really can't see very well. I can't even see at all at night. So, and then you've got spotter. That is when some of the ship units have got a little spotter plane on them. So, okay, let's move that out of the way. Continue along here. Where are we up to? Yes, we've just done that search. So we always do the, and again, it doesn't clarify in the rules who does the initial searches, but we do the reactive player doing the searches in our games. And if that's a house rule, that's what we're using. So, okay. So he's now doing, so I completed my searches, Task Force 1, Task Force 1. So one of his ships in here must have a spotter plane on it. I presume some of the Japanese cruisers or battleships have spotters on them. Okay. 4 or less is required. So let's have a look what he's doing. So Japanese search. Okay, spotter. He's how many hexes? He's adjacent, so it's 1 hex away. Hence why he's saying, and it's daytime, why it's 4 or less required. Boom, he spots me as well. That's not good. Okay, this is what we've got. This is my task force here. That's with the Prince of Wales, the Repulse, and a bunch of destroyers have now been spotted. And I turn over my marker accordingly. Okay, and I'll then reveal, because he got a green information, that he's now detected a battleship, battle cruiser, and a destroyer. Okay, he now begins. In the battle cycle, you get 2 hexes of movement, and he's moved into here. I'm assuming at this point to do some bombardment. So as, again, you can move 2 movement points, you can now do another search, or we both can do searches. And I do force 6, which is, I believe they're the ones in Singapore. That's 16. Where's force 6? Maybe I do. I think I might have meant force 16. Typo. Okay. But I wanted to do task force 2, but I've already searched for task force 2. Again, remember, each force can only search once and also be searched for once in a battle cycle. So there was no actually additional searches. So his second move, he didn't move anything. He could have moved again, and we both passed at that point. Okay. So we now then move on the track here to, so that was the advantage movement step. We now move to advantage air missions. So, yeah, advantage air missions. Sorry for the slight jump there. Had to pause, had to get a brew. Us Brits need to get, we can't concentrate without one of these. That's it, essential. Anyway, so we're into advantage air mission phase, as I brought on here. So this is where he can actually now start doing some air missions, as it's now daytime. Worry about these guys, thinking that maybe now I shouldn't have brought them out to play. So obviously they've got no air cover. So moving on. Brings out the air mission targets. Look, yay, he's targeting the sea. No, he's not. All right, so then it brings out the 4 air forces that he's going to use to strike at this hex here. All right, so and then starts moving him. So now he could have rolled for coordination at this point, but as I've got no air units, there'll be no CAT or air patrol, so we didn't really bother. But if there had been, he'd roll for coordination, and as he had level 1 aircraft in there, he would need a 0, 1, 2, or 3. He has to roll 3 times that number or less. If they're all level 2, it would have been 0 to 6 to be coordinated, but we're not doing that. So picking them all up, and in they come. Quite an air fleet. And he's moved them now onto the battle board. Now, I know this says here it's the Navy naval combat display, but we're bringing everything onto here. It just makes it easier to visualize rather than having counters on the side of the map there. I will transpose my ships from here to the same board. Okay. And what I'll do, as we're now going to zoom in on the action. Okay. So there's my 3 ships. So the destroyers in the screen, and then the battleship and the battle cruiser in the core. And I'm flipping them over to, okay, and then remembering that the flak is actually this little number there. So I've got 1 flak value in the core, and 2 flak value in the core and 1 in the screen. Not the greatest naval force that's ever been amassed, almost sensible. So detection, I'll see to see if I actually see these aircraft coming in to do this strike. If I do see them, I get to flak before they actually do the strike. If I don't, I don't. He does the strike, and then I do the flak. So looking at the Allies search table here, and now we're searching for air. So we're on this part here. I need a 6 or less to see if I see them. I roll a 3. Green, I know exactly what's coming in, but I can see them in there anyway. because they're lined up here to do the nasty. Okay, I line up my ships. He lines up the aircraft. He's throwing everything and the kitchen sink at the Prince of Wales. Okay, this is also where we made a slight mistake. Notice, I'll zoom in a bit more. Oh, that's exciting. Okay. My 3 ships, all right, he lined everything up. We counted these guys as all Fs, but they're not, they're Ts. They're not as effective. So you're going to see some hits come on the Prince of Wales, and then we're going to work it out. Actually, he didn't do too well. He's lined them up and he's striking with this force, then this one, and so on. Okay, because I think he does all the 9 rolls together. So we're looking at the number in blue here to see what he actually needs. So let's go through the strike combat. The naval air combat table needs to be brought up. Okay, so we're looking at, and yeah, if it's your first time seeing this, it's like, what? Okay, but it's not too bad once you get your head around it. Okay, so we're looking at this first force. Its naval attack strength is 8. Any hits on here would knock that value down. So if you had 1 hit, it would become a 7. If it was 2 hits, it would become a 6, and so on. This value here is its air-to-air combat. So the blue ones is air to naval, and the third number there is its air-to-ground effectiveness. Okay, so we're looking here at an 8. So he's looking at this column here, the 8, and then whatever his roll is, you go down, and then you follow. So if he rolled a 3, you go from 8 to that 3, then down the side, and then down to where he's doing what he's doing now. As I say, we treated them all as F versus naval. First one is, but the rest are T versus naval. And as you can see, the effectiveness of T starts a little bit later on this chart. And this is where we make the mistake. So we do, it's a value of 8, and let's go through his 9. All right, all on the Prince of Wales. So he rolls a 7. That's my flak, sorry. My flak was flak ineffective. So again, look at my flak strength was 2. So I decided to use the core. So I detected him. It was a 2. I rolled a 7, so it's onto that area. No hits. Okay. I was actually looking on here, flak versus air. So that's the maximum I could have got, really was 1. Anywho, ineffective. Okay, so bomb run. And he's written there, he's doing all against Prince of Wales, doing left to right. So again, looking at that, so he's doing left, that one along that way. He works out, needs an 8, 7, 5, 5. That's where we made the mistake. So he rolls a 9. So again, looking on there, so he's got an 8, rolls a 9, ineffective. And a 7. Now, let's see what it should be. He's got a 7 with a 7, rolls a 7, gets a 7, bring it down. Okay, we're treating it F versus air, but it's actually T versus F, so this is actually a miss. He reckons it's a, as incorrectly work out as a 1. Then a 2 on the 5. Okay, so 5 strength coming down. Right, 5 strength, he rolled a 2. That's that yellow. And yeah, your eyes get a bit skewy, but you, again, it's something you get used to. All right. F air versus naval. We recorded it as 2 hits. The actual fact, it should only be 1. Okay. We do correct this during the sequence. And then a 7 on the last one. That's a definite miss, no matter what kind of aircraft. It's only got a strike of 5. Okay. So if you notice, I'm putting on the ship here hits, which are actually incorrect. If those hits had been correct, that would make it 3 hits. The little C on the ship would mean it's crippled because it's 1 less than the that value there is the amount of hits it can take before it's sunk. And C on a ship means that it can take one less and be crippled. And crippled just slows it down, makes it vulnerable to submarines, and such forth. So we type 3 hits. I typed 3 hits on the Prince. I'm quite happy at that point. Yeah, it hasn't been sunk. I put them back. As you can see over here, battle's over. And then I had my little discussion saying, well, incorrect. They're actually T. Correction, since T air only 1 hit. And if you look at the Prince of Wales now, I've taken it back to only 1 hit. So where I was excited that it hadn't been sunk, I was now very excited that it was actually still, it wasn't even crippled. So, okay, so let's remove the battle board out of the way. And the hit sharks out of the way. So that's the situation we're in at the present moment. Okay, that was updated advantage air mission to naval combat. That was the only advantage air mission. So there is no naval combat. For naval combat to occur, we must have naval forces in the actual hex together. We don't. Having one, we slurps a tea, keep the actual throat dry. Yeah, Brits and tea is true. Naval combat 1, naval combat 2, naval combat 3, on to bombardment. And step through on the vessel. Update, and he's now going to conduct a bombardment on this hex with that 2 battleships. Oh yeah, we brought this up onto the battle board display as well. So, and there they are. All right, so again, remember I mentioned about spotters. He's got the little aircraft there. If you look at my ships here, the Prince of Wales, I don't have a little spotter aircraft yet. We were so far behind on those sort of ideas. Japanese ahead of the game for spotter aircraft. So these can all do their own individual searches. So there they are. So he's going to flip these over and bombard my poor chaps in. Well, there they are. Was it the 8th Indian Brigade? So on the actual infantry counter, the first number here is their troop quality. 3 ain't great. And the second number here, the 1, is the flak value, also not great. And the third number here is the amount of hits it can maximum take, and it's telling me it's still got 3 hits remaining. Okay, so there's the amount of steps you can actually have in that unit at full strength before. So he flips all the ships over, and the bombardment value is this B4. Okay, and these values here are their gunnery at short range, medium range, and long range, but they're not being involved because we're not in naval combat. And they're all effective at attacking 1 unit, so they effectively it needs a 4 or less. So how do we know this? Let's have a look. They've got a 4. We've got anti-submarine torpedo. It's actually not on that chart, is it? No. Well, it might have been. Maybe. Oh, bombardment. There it is. Bombardment versus ground units. The maximum effect you can get is a T, which is a troop quality check. Okay. And any unit that's bombarded can only suffer 1 troop quality check per phase. So does he get a 4? He's rolling 3 times. He gets it on the first ship. So my troop quality check. Troop quality is 3, so I need to roll 3 or less. Yes, they love it. They can take it. They're in their bunkers, not bothered by the Congo or the Haruna, but whichever one it was, not bothered. Bring it on. And then we take everything off the battle display. Loving it. Right. So again, we now move the turn phase marker on here. So from bombardment to demolition. In the first battle cycle, I was trying to blow up some of these air bases, so you can't capture them. I tried to I blew up the one in Kennabaroo. Trying to blow up that one now, hence why I've written FO2. And again, it's a true quality check to do that. So it's my force 2. I need to roll 2 or less. Good lads. They're on the 0. That is now removed. So you need to now spend time building an airbase there. Boom. Demo in F5, force 5. My force 5 has got the true quality 3, needs 3 or less. No, they're not even aware what's going on. You're having a fag break. Oh, and that's a smoke break for you American viewers. All right, so that was the only one I wanted to do there. So we now carry on with the turn sequence. I seem to have lost my display. Where's that gone? Turn sequence. There it is. Okay, so that then moves on to airfield repair. Went from demolition to ground combat. Jumped it there. Whoops. So ground combat. So we have ground combat as we're both in this hex. And I'll bring up the combat display again. This is the first time I'm going to know what is actually attacking me. Okay, so I'll transpose my force 1 into here. I know it says naval units, as I said, we're just using it as a general display. And whoa. Okay, so look, let's have a closer look here. So he's got 2 units. Remember what I was saying about the battle size? You've done a 1 of them. So they came from this force here. So those originally landed. So when you do a disembarkation or disembark, that uses up 1 battle cycle movement. So that'll be the first one. Doing this move into here will be his second one once he gets to mark what they're doing. Okay. Embarking doesn't use up a BCM. Okay. Again, let's have a look at, so he's got 7 troop quality as opposed to my 3, so that's good. Flak's the same. Can take a maximum of 12 steps, still has 9 steps in it. And then this unit here, an independent regiment, has got 3 steps, troop quality 3 and 3. So he'll be leading with these guys. And these are basically the backup units. Okay. Units, right. So it's ground combat, column 14 minus 2 DRM. How did we get to that point? I hear you ask. Well, we go to the ground combat display. Okay. So on here, the first thing we look at is the troop quality. So his troop quality, he's leading with that unit. So any losses he takes has to come off this unit because that's his lead. So he's got a total of 9 plus 3 is 12 steps. I've only got 3. So that is 12 to 3, 4 to 1. Also, his troop quality is 7 to my 3. That's the first thing we look at. So the attacker troop quality is 7. Against defensive troop quality of 3. That brings us to 14. Hence why it's written column 14. And then the minus 2 DRM is determined by the odds. Having 4 to 1, he gets minus 2 on the die roll. There's no terrain effects modifier because this actual hex is clear. So no terrain effects modifier on there. So we're on the 14, the minus 2. And the red is good for him. This is what we'll call a mandatory retreat. So he's going to make me retreat whatever actually happens on the die roll here. And he rolls a 3. Take away 2 is a 1. Okay. So this brings up this result box here. Anything with that? No. So we're in this area. So this then, we look at the size of the forces involved. So we add up all the troop qualities, and that will tell us which of those 3 results to look up. So he has 12, I have 3 is 15. We're looking at the middle number, 6 to 16, 0, 3. Bit sad. He takes no losses. I take 3. I've only got 3. We're wiped out to a man. Well, they surrendered effectively. Probably they surrendered. This is early war. Japanese, you could say it was wiped out to a man, but it doesn't really matter either way. They're going to be removed. So I still need to check the troop quality to see, because and there's lots of little computations here that could happen. If I actually pass the troop quality, I can choose to retreat and take only half of those losses rounded down. But we failed because my troop quality is only 3. So no, they all died. And hence why I removed them. He took no losses. As we were in their mandatory retreat, but eliminated. And because I was eliminated, there's no pursuit, and therefore he's not deactivated. We had a little discussion. He thought he was. I think no, the rules were saying if there was a pursuit and he declined the pursuit, then he would have been deactivated. He didn't decline, therefore his BCM is increased by 1 because he moved, so he's now showing 2, and they didn't deactivate. So I now know for a fact it's more than a 2-week operation. So, 2-week, 14-day. Okay, so we've now come from the ground combat phase onto, that was the only ground combat. There's airfield repair, there is no airfield repair. It's rally. Disadvantage movement. I really wanted to win the advantage movement there too, because if I'd won the advantage die roll, I would have been able to pull those forces back before he came in and clobbered them. So, assault phase. Okay, because that didn't happen. So, disadvantage movement. Okay, this is where I decide to go. What was I trying to do here? This is, I think we're having a discussion. Should I go in there? So remembering that I've got that task force 1, which is detected, they are 2 battleships and a cruiser. We've got quite good gunning ratings as well. We'll be able to do a quick look at those. There are 5s. Mine's actually slightly better, but I didn't want to end this battle cycle there, because then there'll be naval combat. He's got other naval here that I don't know. I don't want to say I retreated. What's the correct term? Strategically withdrew to preserve my forces. Initial search, I think we'd had everything that was detected that we needed. I was summoned back to Singapore. Honestly, there was no chicken ship maneuver here. There was no additional searches. Both past that option. Back into Singapore, reassuring the governor there that we're here to support him. At least we only took 1 hit on the Prince of Wales rather than being sunk. Both battleships, battleship and battlecruiser, sunk in the original. That actually means ground, not round. And this is where I decided to pull back a bit with the forces that I'd activated in Singapore. And as you can see what happened here, I amalgamated those forces. He's now joined the forces in Singapore. And I decreased his battle cycle from 2 to 1 there. Okay, disadvantage air missions. So I thought, right, okay, can I launch airstrikes with my aircraft like he did against mine? I got vaguely excited at this point. I could do something back. Then I looked at my aircraft. Oh dear, they are woeful. Okay, so let's bring this up and let's zoom in a little bit on this. Okay, right, so this is my T aircraft, twin engine, level 0. That's the lowest pilot, so that they're as bad as they can get, the green rubbish aircraft, etc. So I've got a 1 on naval. So I can't manipulate his displays and such forth. So let's just bring up one of the Japanese aircraft again if we can. Japanese forces, task forces, control resource markers, game markers. Yeah, hold on. Japanese force markers. No. Oh, where are the actual Japanese units? I'm going to pause again here. Sorry, guys. Okay, so just played around with the vessel module while I paused there, and had another cheeky. Well, I'm going to have a third cheeky slip of tea. So I can't actually see the Japanese units at all, because this icon here, all right, allows me to bring up the game markers, but there's no actual units under here. All the units are stored on a tray. So if I bring up the Allied air ground, okay, I've got a nice big display of all my units that will eventually come in the game and such forth. And there's my unfortunate Indian brigade that got done in. I can't, if I go onto the Japanese one, it's all blank. So I can't actually look at any of their counters unless they're actively active on the board. But, so from memory, remember that their level 0, their T aircraft was sitting here with about a 5, and they were level 1. So better aircraft, better value. So that's telling me that I need a 0 or a 1 to hit. Okay, or another way to put it, it's a 20% chance. Do I really want to risk those aircraft? I do have another Air Force. Where have they gone? Oh, up here. Fooling myself. In Force 4, which has got a level 0. Oh, and its naval effect is 0. In actual fact, because he's taken 2 hits, he'll be on what's called the 0-4. That means he must roll initially at 0 and then roll a 4 or less on a second subsequent dice. That's only about a 5% chance of a hit. My initial excitement there waned considerably. So, yeah, I thought, let's just see if preserve them for something else. Attacking that Navy is not going to be anywhere near as exciting as what his air attack was, even though he did roll rather poorly. So, moving on. So, the disadvantage air missions was none. Yeah, and that was a rather glum face. And then, so we then went to the joint activation, deactivation phase, where again, now I've got no command points, so I can't activate anything. And he could spend up to 10 points again. But we decided to pause the game at that point. As you can see, the log file ended. With that had taken us, now, we did a lot of chit chat, a lot of rule referencing, and a lot of discussion about it. It wasn't just rule referencing, but discussion, especially about those BCMs, what they were trying to reflect. They're a little bit confusing because remember, each of these battle cycles is 2 days. And this is where I'm going to make a Doctor Who reference here for any of you Americans who don't watch Doctor Who, do so. Effectively, it's a little bit on the confusing side that how long all the time is wibbly wobbly. Because, all right, so if he did a 28-day operation, okay, he'd get 4 BCM markers on it, so you can activate them for 4 battle cycles, but each battle cycle only uses up 2 days. So effectively, they're only marching for, if you use it directly as a translation, 4 battle cycles, 8 days. So, and then the navies can move considerably further. So at each battle cycle, they can move 2 hexes. So they could keep going all the way, if it was 28 days and 14, they could move 28 hexes on the map. Don't know. But it seems to work. Even though time is wibbly wobbly, it seems to work. And we know that ground things are a bit slower, and they get slowed down, landing and disembarking. Disembarking uses a BCM, but embarking doesn't. But it does seem to work. So that ended that particular. Oh, I've got to click on here. Do you want to start a new log file? No, quite happy with that. And that will end this particular video. So we've had our initial airstrike. We've had my forces strategically withdrawing, backing up Singapore, realizing that we're a little bit outclassed on the air front. And we have a very strong Japanese presence landed here. And we're still not sure it's now still in force 2. And we've got some more ground forces coming in here, which sets us up nicely for battle cycle 3 of this first operation, which will be in the next video. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, whatever. Until next time, bye internet. I don't know, loitering because I've got to find the pause button. Bye again. See you waiting.